who can have the most status and the most flashiness and the most Instagram followers. So of course these guys are famous because that's what our society values. If we lived in a higher consciousness society that valued things like love and consciousness and wisdom and integrity, there's a reason I made this video and there's a reason I'm passionate about this topic. Here's the real tragedy. None of the conscious men today are famous. I had this with all my mentors and all the men I looked up to. They had a very strong sense of purpose. They had a very strong vision for who they wanted to be and how they wanted to give back. You have to learn how to discern wisdom from ego and trickery. And when you find trickery and ego, you just block it out. I did want to make this video specifically for men because it just seems so dire out there. You know, there's no guidance and it's so lost and there's so much noise. And so I hope this can reach some men, maybe be the stepping stone to you finding that guidance and then embodying it yourself. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Lion's Heart. And in this video, I want to speak about somewhat of a heartbreaking issue, which is around the lack of male role models today in society and how young men today really don't have much guidance or a North Star in terms of where to look for guidance and really a playbook and a blueprint and an exampled embodiment of what it means to be a conscious man in the world today. So when we look around and we see the popular men in society today, who do we see? We see guys like Andrew Tate, Tate and Bilzerian, Tai Lopez, Travis Scott, these types of characters, right? And if we go into their content and we, see what they're doing and we, check what they're talking about, it becomes pretty evident these guys' values and beliefs and what they're, what they believe and what they back. And these are values of, ego, selfishness. They value money. They value material possessions. They value exploiting and objectifying women. It's all about more. It's about pleasure. It's about, selfishness. It's about feeding the ego and validating the ego. There's no really values seen of service or kindness or integrity or discipline. It's really like, how can I make the most and exploit the most out of the system for my own personal gain? So this is kind of like what these guys are teaching and what they're embodying. And so, another very good metric of a leader is how are they treating their fans? How are they treating the ones who make them famous, the ones who are giving them their money, right? And if we look at these guys, it's very obvious that what they're doing is they're exploiting their fan base. Whether it's Tate and Bilzerian, like pushing products, kind of selling this idea that if you buy my clothing, you'll somehow end up like me and you'll be part of this cool lifestyle and all the girls will want you. Or it's, Travis Scott having a concert where people are dying in the crowd, literally dying in the crowd. And he continues the concert and, he could have stopped that. He really could have stopped that. I truly believe that people would not have died if he was a more responsible man, but he's not. And he just wanted to keep the chaos going. And it was probably like exciting for him. And, he didn't take responsibility for the lives of his fans. Tai Lopez, tons of scam courses. He's just scamming people on how to make millions and get rich quick, which doesn't work. It doesn't happen. And so these people put up thousands of dollars and they lose all their money and Tai Lopez gets rich and, they not only do they lose their money, but they lose a bit of their soul. They lose a bit of their character because they're also brainwashing themselves through Tai Lopez and these characters with the programming of, exploit people, make as much money as possible. This is what life's about. This is what being a man is about. Success at whatever costs necessary. Same with Andrew Tate. I mean, Andrew Tate's a criminal, but he was really popular for a while. And he was basically teaching men, how to exploit and abuse women and how to control women and how to exploit people and scam people and make money off the system. So it's really sad because these are the men. And if we look at metrics like Instagram followers and YouTube views, these are the men who are the most popular in society. They're at the top of the pyramid in terms of popularity. So we look at these guys, right? They're at the top of the pyramid. And I don't want to sit here and bash them and judge them and criticize them because that's not what this channel's about. That's not what Lion's Heart's about. There's plenty of people doing terrible things out there. What we want to focus on in Lion's Heart is ourselves and how to make the best lives possible and how to integrate and embody these teachings. And there's always going to be noise. There's always going to be noise. And we have to learn how to shut off the noise, shut off the chaos outside, and focus on ourselves and do what we can to grow. And that will actually help us to be of better service to the world and to actually be more powerful and effective in what we want to do and the changes we want to make, right? So let's just ask the question, does this work? Because that's what we're trying to get at Lion's Heart. Does this work? This ideology of, sleep with as many women as possible and exploit people for money and be selfish and, scam people and just think about yourself. And that's your kind of philosophy on life. Well, let's look. Are these guys really happy? Are they satisfied in life? Check out some of these clips.
Life for a man is harder than life for a woman. We need to have a lot of shit to be an important man. To be a woman, you need makeup. If you're truly beautiful, you don't need anything else. I've been on boats in Dubai with 19-year-old Moldovan girls. The guy who got that boat needed $100 million. That bitch, makeup.
If you're the kind of person who feels like they need therapy, you're useless.
Going to bed is emasculate. Cowards need sleep.
The night, I beat another guy for 10.
He claims to have won over $50 million in 1 year of playing poker.
He's the son of convicted corporate fraudster Paul Bilzerian.
The trust fund Ponzi scheme inheriting pseudo-commando wannabe.
There was always something a little bit weird about him, don't you think? Whether it was an inability to accept the reality of his eccentric lifestyle or the prolonged awkwardness whenever anyone asked where his money came from.
How much money have you made playing poker?
I don't know.
Something felt off every time.
Now, if I go to the best restaurant in the fucking world, I'm like maybe at like a 6 or a 7. I'm just like satisfied. I got 3 chefs. Like I eat the best food all the time. You know what I mean? So like that doesn't make me happy anymore. Like if somebody bought me a Lamborghini, I'd be like, whatever. Like I've had them. I don't care. Like
Tai Lopez, YouTube's most infamous fake guru, is back. And this time he is allegedly scamming investors out of millions in unpaid investments and making outlandish claims about guaranteed financial returns that just aren't possible.
Come here, bitch. Get that motherfucker, get him. You tried to take my shoe? You want to be a thief? Fuck him up, fuck him up, fuck him up. Fuck him up, fuck him up, fuck him up.
So as you can see, it's pretty obvious that these people are not happy. These men lack a lot of peace. They are not satisfied. They're very angry. They're very unstable and ungrounded. And I hate to say this, but I just envision that inside of their souls, inside of their being, there's just a dark hole of emptiness from all these things that they've done and just this lack of being connected to their hearts. The sad part is that, this is like the blind and the deaf leading the blind, right? Because a lot of these men that they're leading are lost in life, they're confused, and they're very frustrated, and rightfully so, but they're frustrated with, being a man in society today. They're tired of the man hate. They're tired of, way too radical feminism, just kind of demonizing them just for having a basically. So I understand these young men are upset, they're frustrated. And then they see a guy like Tate or Bilzerian or whatever on the internet just kind of like living the life and saying fuck it to everything else and like me, and I'm going to do whatever I need to win and exploit. And now I've got the women. And they're like, yeah, you're right. Like, screw this. I want to be like that. I hate the system too. And I'm going to do what I can to exploit it and to make the best life for myself, right? So you get these riled up young guys backing up, guys like Tate and Bilzerian and following them like a cult. And it's really toxic and it's really harmful because these guys are not teaching any high consciousness values. And not only are they wasting these young men's like time and energy and money, they're actually devolving them. They're actually hitting them down a peg. They're doing the opposite of helping them grow and helping them become more conscious, right? So it's actually hurting. It's not only not helping these guys, it's hurting them. We can't blame Dan Bilzerian and Andrew Tate. They are just people doing what they're doing. And yes, they're living unconsciously. Yes, they're living with low values. But, the reason that they're famous is because this is what our society values today. we are in a society that values and places a lot of emphasis on material success and who can hook up with the most amount of women and who can have the most status and the most flashiness and the most Instagram followers. So of course these guys are famous because that's what our society values. If we lived in a higher consciousness society that valued things like love and consciousness and wisdom and integrity, these guys would be a joke. You would just see them and you would laugh and you just move on. But because we live in a society that has these values, these guys actually become very famous and very looked up to by the masses. So that's the situation we're in. That's just kind of how it is right now. And I want to tell a personal story because there's a reason I made this video and there's a reason I'm passionate about this topic. And basically what it is that when I was in college, I, had graduated, I was working, and I basically had a kind of like a rock bottom moment, right? I was numbing out a lot of pain. I was drinking, I was doing drugs, I was having a lot of random sex and partying a lot and things like that. And I really was just doing it because I was so misguided. I felt like life was so purposeless. I was bitter. I was angry. I felt like life was kind of like a curse. Like I had this like bitterness and anger towards life. I was, addicted to all sorts of different dopamine traps. I didn't have like discipline. I didn't really believe in integrity. I didn't believe in honest hard work. I just thought, I really was just like, you got to do what you got to do. And if you have to exploit the system, you do it, and things like this. And I really was lost. I really was a lost young man, and there was a lot of pain there because I just didn't have guidance. I didn't have strong embodied male role models that I could look at and that were really embodying like these really high consciousness values and look at and follow and ask questions to and kind of have as mentors. Like I was just kind of thrown out in the deep end, and my role models at that age were, like rappers, superstars, athletes, famous athletes, and also like the money guys, like Jordan Belfort and these kind of guys who they are portrayed as having made it, right? So I was very lost, and I had a moment of hitting rock bottom, and I'll probably make another video on that, but for now, let's just leave it at that. So I had this moment of deep rock bottom. And it was in this moment where I realized I need guidance. I need, role models in my life. I need to find strong male role models. And I couldn't find any on YouTube. I looked around, and it was really difficult. It was really difficult, actually, to find men who weren't just talking about this, but were actually embodying it and living it and could teach me and work with me. So I went out on this kind of journey to find more male role models, and I got really lucky to find a therapist who ended up becoming, like a mentor to me. And he was, very embodied in conscious masculinity. He was very strong, very grounded, very, gave me just a lot of guidance without judging me, without criticizing me. He just gave me a lot of guidance in life, and he became such a strong pillar for me as a man to look up to and to, kind of come to with my problems and have that masculine support. And then it was later on in life that I started finding guys like Peter Ralston and Sahajananda and Ken Wilber and other men who were just very inspiring in how they embodied, these higher consciousness values. And you might be curious now, like, what are these high consciousness values that I keep talking about? And there's actually a lot, but I'll give you a few. So one is integrity and honesty. And basically what that is just being a man of your word. And it doesn't mean that you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you're like this moral, freak about always doing the right thing and don't cuss and don't, it's just like, what's right and wrong. And you have that kind of moral compass and you stick to it. And even when you have opportunities to maybe take advantage of someone in a business deal or get away with something that kind of benefits you but hurts others, you don't do it. And even if no one ever finds out that you didn't do it, you still don't do it because you have integrity. You keep that relationship to yourself. And it's really not about others. It's about you. Do you have integrity with yourself? Do you say the things you're going to do? Do you do the things you're going to say? Do you live up to your word? Do people trust you? Can they rely on you? Are you going to screw them over the second you get an opportunity to have something more for your gain? This is what being a man of integrity is. Another high conscious value is discipline. And, it's not just discipline in going to the gym and these things, because, Tate and Bilzerian did those things. it's discipline around working towards something higher than yourself. So it's like discipline towards reading a consciousness book, or going to a meditation retreat, or discipline towards, volunteering somewhere, or reading a book, these kinds of disciplines, meditating in the morning, like these kinds of disciplines that are not just for you, but it's not just, oh, I can have a bigger body and chicks will look at me and this thing. It's like, I have discipline around my life purpose, right? And that brings us to our next high consciousness value, is service and purpose. A high consciousness man is living his life for others. He's living his life to give back to life. He sees life as a gift, and he's giving his life back to other people. And this is really the pillar of a strong man. I had this with all my mentors and all the men I looked up to. They had a very strong sense of purpose. They had a very strong vision for who they wanted to be and how they wanted to give back. And there was a lot of selflessness in there. I saw a lot of sacrifice and maturity that these men embodied, that they had to put up with, that they had to, deal with other people's opinions and criticisms and these things. And they just stood in that power and that consciousness, and they just trucked on with their life purpose. They just had that perseverance and that vision of serving and giving back. Another high consciousness value could be something like sexual mastery, not being so pulled by your sexual energy, not getting ripped away the second you see a hot girl, or addicted to porn, or just having control of that sexual energy. Because when you're in control of your sexual energy, you're in control of your life. And so many men just get pulled around by their dicks. Andrew Tate, Dan Bilzerian, like these guys just are sex addicts, really. That's what they are. And they just don't have like discipline around that area. So really, I think what it is to be a conscious man is you transcend your sexuality a bit. And it doesn't mean that you're like some celibate monk. You can still have a lot of sex and have beautiful sex, but you're just not a slave to it. And that's like really the key difference there, is you're in control of it. You're not constantly obsessing about it and thinking about it. You can kind of turn that off when you need to, or at least transmute it and sublimate it. I'm not saying suppress it. Another key consciousness value would be emotional mastery. And that's the same as the sexual energy. It's like, it's not like you're suppressing and holding down your emotions, but you're able to just let them come out and come through, and they're not dictating your reactions. You're not a slave to like anger and jealousy. You can let them come up, you can watch them and witness them, and then you can still act from maturity and consciousness. And all of the really high consciousness men that I've met in my life have extreme, unbelievable amounts of emotional mastery. And they're very able to stay in that center, stay calm and clear and collected when there is chaotic things, confronting things happening around them. And here's the real tragedy. None of the conscious men today are famous, really. They're really not. I mean, the truly embodied conscious men, the ones who are the true leaders and the true teachers, they're really not famous. And speaking from my own experience, Sahajananda is a yoga teacher at my school. He's the founder of Hijraya Yoga. And I go to the retreats there, and there's maybe 100, 150 people there, right? And Ken Wilber, oh my God, just a genius intellectual, so tapped into God consciousness, so understanding of the developmental levels of humans. I mean, if every person just read at least one Ken Wilber book, the world would be such a different place. But they just don't, because, Ken Wilber, he doesn't even have 1,000 reviews on his top selling book in Amazon. He's not well known. Like within this circle, he's well known, but even then he doesn't have like a big following. He's not very popular. The same thing for Peter Ralston. I went to a Peter Ralston consciousness workshop 2 years ago, and it was like me and like 10, 12 other people. It was tiny. And the same thing with his books. Like there's just not a lot of reviews. There's not a lot of engagement. And he is a master of wisdom. He's a master of self-inquiry and consciousness and enlightenment. I mean, if you want to develop and grow, that's the guy you hang around. So what's the problem here? Is it that society doesn't value wisdom and growth and consciousness and love? Or is it that these people are just drowned out by all the noise and that they're just really difficult to find? I mean, I got extremely lucky finding these men. And I just want to leave you guys with some advice, because I know this can sound kind of depressing and dire, but there is a silver lining. These men do exist. These role models do exist. And most importantly, you can find and embody these qualities in yourself. And I really recommend you find some male role models in life, and you really study their material. you spend as much time as possible with them. You ask them questions if you can. Maybe do one-on-ones with them, things like this. Go to their retreats, go to their workshops, read their books, listen to their interviews, and you can learn so much and observe so much wisdom from these men. And also just cut out the noise. Andrew Tate, Dan Bilzerian, these Instagram guys, just cut them out, because what they're doing is they're bringing you lower, actually. And you have to learn how to discern wisdom from ego and trickery. And when you find trickery and ego, you just block it out, right? And just only feed your brain that wisdom and that embodied consciousness. It's like a diet. Like, just feed your brain that healthy food. Stay away from sugar, stay away from shit, right? And again, embody those qualities yourself. Become that man of integrity, become that man of honesty, become disciplined within your sexuality and your habits and your life purpose and your vision, and have that perseverance and that patience, and really see that vision of growth and development and become that. Because eventually the point is to drop these teachers. You don't want to be a follower forever. You want to become that conscious masculine man and live those higher values. And one last question before I go. Who is your top male role model? Comment in the sections below. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. And I think this is a very, beautiful conversation. And I think we can also learn from each other and hear who else is out there, because that's how I found these guys. It was through word of mouth. It was through forums and things like that. So I really want to know who you guys see as, conscious male role models, and we'll discuss that and, see where we go from there. And that's what this channel is about, is becoming the best versions of ourselves, not just as men, but as humans. I did want to make this video specifically for men because it just seems so dire out there. There's no guidance, and it's so lost, and there's so much noise. And so I hope this can reach some men and some young guys, and just, maybe be the stepping stone to you finding that guidance and then embodying it yourself. So with that, much love, guys. Hope you have a great week, and talk soon. Cheers.